I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation here. So again, my name is Ashley Risotto, and I am a full-time career advisor here at Nova Southeastern University. I've been here for a year, but I've been a career advisor for several years prior to that, and I specialize in working with our business students as well as with our pre-health and current health graduate professionals. I see Barbara has made a comment here. And yes, we will have access to the PowerPoint. I've sent that to Jonathan, so that's something that can be sent out after the event has wrapped up. We'll send it to the attendance list. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. I'll get a beep whenever you all respond on the side here. If you have any questions, do feel free to message those in. Before I jump in, I just want to make sure, Jonathan or anyone, can y'all hear me all right? Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's jump right on in and not waste any more time. So when it comes to your CV, before we can even get into the how do you do it or what pieces are important, we have to understand fundamentally why CVs are an important source. When it comes to the CV, it's all about the ability to create a professional document that highlights your own strengths and your qualifications. This document gives us a chance to control the way that residency admissions counselor looks at your application, the way that future employer is able to watch and understand. And I'm going to pause for a moment and ask if anybody still has their mic unmuted to please mute their microphone since I'm receiving some feedback on my end. Thank you. Okay, jumping back on in. So what's very special about writing the CV is you can really control and target the information that you are providing to that person that you're looking to apply to that opportunity. So if you are applying for a dental opportunity and you want to be in orthodontics, you have the opportunity to create an orthodontics experience section and target your information there. And the question I get very often is, would you use the same CV for all jobs? That answer depends. If you happen to be
Muted. Unmuted.
okay. Thank you for muting the participants. I appreciate that. So you don't have to, you can use the same CV for all of your jobs. If you happen to be applying to the same style of job, so again, with that dental orthodontic residency student, as I was talking about before, you would use the same CV throughout because it'd be targeted to that. But if you're open to several different healthcare opportunities, you may want to mix around the experiences you have and organize that based on the most relevant information. And I see a question on the side here. Let's grab that before we move ahead. Presentation covers CV writing for residency apps. This CV application, this CV presentation today will cover all facets that CVs can be used for. This is aimed towards graduate and professional students, so it will be focused on different examples. So you'll see ones for a residency, you'll see examples for medical students, for pharmacy students. It's all for you to get the understanding of how to create this document. If you want more specific support, we're happy to provide that within our office with one-on-one appointments, which I'll talk all about later on. So before we jump in, I just want to help you understand the fundamentals. Though this pillars handout talks about pre-health, this also continues throughout your health career. You already have the academics and confirming your passion. Let's focus on those last 4 pillars there. As a health practitioner, you want to be able to address your research, your leadership, transferable skills, and community involvement, along with your most relevant clinical experience. These pieces all together are going to be very important in building that full document. And if anyone ever asks you, what's the difference between a resume and CV, or if you've ever found yourself wondering that, they are very similar documents. The benefit to a CV are they are much longer. I know academics that are later in their professional careers who have 12-page long CVs. For you all, it's all about the relevant experiences, your chance to write about clinical rotations, and onwards. And we're going to get into piece by piece and section by section how you can address those pieces and present them very clearly. So before we jump in to those examples, when you look at the basics, this is all about the setup. Knowing how you can best control your skills and experiences and how that person on the other end gets to receive it. So you have the format, which is being able to put the proper information spaced out nicely on your resume. The style, the way that you combine your format with the content that you're going to provide, and then making sure that content is very relevant and addresses exactly all the different areas of your experiences. Basics for the format would be reverse chronological order, so you'd be ordering your information from most recent experience to your oldest experience. You want to set your margins to 0.5 all the way around, gives you the most space to work with on each of those pages. We recommend 10 to 12 point style font, just so that you can squeeze a lot of good information in there without it being too tiny. And you want to be consistent. If you use Times New Roman, use it throughout. If you're always bolding the title of the position you had, you're bolding that title, your titles all the way throughout the document. You want to create consistency so it's really easy for them to read. Just some basic do's and don'ts. You do want to create your own letterhead. So when we go over your contact information, you'd want to copy and paste that contact information on top of all your related application documents if you're applying for a job, for example. So you would have your cover letter and your CV would have the same contact information style on the top. Using bolding, italics, and capitalization will help you emphasize what's most important. As you even look at this page, you may notice your eyes are drawn to the bolded words. That's because our eyes are just drawn to them, and we want to use that strategically to our advantage. You also want to print on one side of the sheet and use high-quality resume paper. Jumping into the breakdown of the CV. This is the contact information. This is what would be that letterhead, that Johnny Tsunami section right up there. You may notice that there are always 4 pieces of vital information. There's, of course, your name. That should always be big and bold. You want that 16 to 20 point font. Remember, you are the star of this show, and they should always remember everything that they're reading relates back to you. You only need to provide your name on the first page. On all following pages, feel free in the top corner right over here to put your last name and 2 on every page, numerically following 2, 3, 4, however long your document goes, but you do not need that for the first page. You will also want to put your address, your phone number, and an appropriate email. If you don't feel comfortable putting your full home address, feel free to put just your city and state as well as your zip code. Next up is the education section. If you are currently in school, a recent graduate, or hold a doctoral degree, I believe education should absolutely be your first section. When you get to the point when it's 5, 6, 7 years of professional experience and that degree is a little older, sure, you can move this section later down in your document. But right now, especially if you're applying for your first opportunity, if you're applying for residency, you really want to start with that education piece and show your current education. Each of those sections, you should be bolding your degree and naming the whole thing. I see. What about spacing? All right. So when it comes to the spacing, you don't have to double space in between, but you'll be able to, you really want to spread out your information from the left side of the page all the way to the right side of the page. Taking up the space on that document really balances the sheet and helps present your information in a way that they could scan really quickly down the right side for your dates and locations and quickly down the left side for the positions or education you've had, as well as the locations of that. Does that help? Well, I hope it does. We'll see. Oh, perfect. Good. Once you've passed your education section, one other section you may want to put right away, depending on your field, is your certification and licensure section. So if you happen to have a licensing number affiliated with your profession, and you've received that from the Board of Medicine or whatever crediting institution, you want to create that number and add that there. The most important thing for this section is they don't care when you got certified. They want to know if it's current. Are you up to date on it? And that especially goes for my nursing students that are in the room today. Here you'd want to bold the title of the certificate. We are bolding the most important piece of information for every section we provide. And then you want to italicize the accrediting institution who granted you that license or that certification. And then again, that final most important piece, either your license number or the current status of it. Next up would be clinical experience. And when I say clinical experience, I mean this is the section where you show the most specific and related relevant content to your field. If you are a pharmacy student, as this example has, you're putting your most relevant pharmacy clinical rotations. If you are a student going into residency for dermatology, you're not just going to do clinical highlights, you're going to put dermatology clinical highlights. You want to go ahead and target the field that you are aiming for to help those reviewers on the other end see you already have that apples to apples comparative experience. And you want to get specific. We're going to talk about how to build a bullet point towards the end, but just see here, as you see this PowerPoint, you're going to see many great examples of how to build a strong bullet point. You want to always start with this action verb, provide, perform, and gain, and then you can go into the details of what you specifically impacted. So the action, and this would be the skill that matches your transferable skills that you'd see maybe on a job application or a residency application. Let's check this question we have here. Clinical rotation, we speak in present tense, and for the past, we say in the past. That's correct, Ria. You would stay in present tense, just as you see here, provide, perform. And this one finished in December, so they assisted and developed and provided. I know it feels a little awkward sometimes to write in present tense, but it helps kind of create the timeline. I see one more question here. Would you split administrative and clinical into two different sections? Yes, in fact, it depends on what you are really aiming for the person who's looking for administrative and clinical. You have many, many headings that you can create. This is a document that as long as it's relevant, you can keep on going. But if you're aiming for an administrative healthcare job, that's what you're going to start with. I've been getting a whole lot of questions. Thank you all for having many questions about this. Let me make sure I can catch everybody here. Nursing students, do we put clinical relocation that stood out the most? Exactly, and that's Akela. So Akela, we do want you to highlight the most relevant clinical experience that you have. So highlighting either the population if you want to work with pediatrics, saying peds, pediatric clinical highlights. And then you can also have another section that says additional clinical highlights to keep on talking about the other relevant times you've seen and done what you've needed to do. I also see, do we stay in active voice? As for active voice, my understanding would be, I actually don't have a full understanding of what you mean by active voice. The examples have exemplified how you would do the present tense versus the past tense. And then I see another great question. Would you limit the number of bullet points? Aim between 4 to 7. It really depends on you. You don't want to have one section with one bullet point and then one with 5. You want to make sure it's balanced. So if you do 3 bullet points for one, you want to keep on doing 3 or 4 bullet points. If you've had a really important job or opportunity, you want to spend 8 bullet points on that. Just make sure other things in that section are pretty comparable in terms of that size. And also, if you're already in the field, if you went back to school after working several years, for example, if you were physical therapist aide, you can do physical therapy assistant experience and add physical therapy aide as part of that, and then also include in that experience some of those clinical rotations. All right, moving on. Some other sections to consider as a healthcare professional, especially if you've gotten leadership experience within your school, within the community, whether it was the club or as a peer mentor, as we see here, you should be using leadership to help fill any gaps that you've had in your clinical experience. So if you feel like your clinical experience is really skills-oriented and helps you describe what you're able to do in the space, you may want to have a leadership experience that shows that you're able to plan a fundraising event and work on a team or coordinate professional development opportunities, because if you're coordinating professional development opportunities, it means that you have an understanding of that. And I have another good question here from Ria. If you have said Nova Southeastern University in full, and then you abbreviate in parentheses NSU next to it, then you can abbreviate everywhere further. If you've ever used APA style formatting, it's the same rule between the two. In fact, if I go back to education here, NSU in my written example right here has the abbreviation next to it. So now on my document, I can abbreviate it as I go along, as seen right over here. Good question. Community involvement is also something you want to stay really include on here, especially for those students that are going in through the residency program. You may feel, wow, everybody does community outreach, everybody does mission trips, but it's what you got out of them and what you're able to display, because you and I can both go to the same community outreach event and have two completely different experiences. So being able to speak to those specifics of who you were able to service, what types of skills you were having, you want to be able to, thank you, Jonathan, you want to be able to showcase how you as a unique individual professional navigated that space, adapted to the needs of your patients and your team, and were able to walk away critically understanding what you got from it. And also, community involvement for every healthcare position is important. Everybody wants a doctor that knows and wants to help people. Community involvement is the bare bones of becoming locally involved, becoming locally invested. Without a community, many of us wouldn't have jobs. So being able to take time to give back to the community to show that investment, whether it was a summer camp counselor or the opportunity to really get hands-on with Give Kids a Smile as a dental student, you get to showcase the skills that are related to your field, but also related to being in a helping profession. Let's see. All right, so research. Research is another pillar. And along with research and all these other opportunities, I do want you to know, don't feel bad if you don't have leadership, but you have a lot of research. It's all about building up what you uniquely have. I'm just showing you all the different tools and ways that you can go to create a relevant resume and leverage everything that you got to show that employer or admissions counselor that you have what it takes to get to that next step. So with the research experience, they're looking for the ability to critically think, to possibly contribute to the field of research in the future. A lot of these programs, dental, medical, PT, OT, you name it, you have the option once you get that final degree to just be a practitioner or to go ahead and continue contributing to the body of research. So being able to speak to those research interests and also show that you have the capability to continue giving back to that. I'm going to check in on this question here. So we have a couple of them. We have, should we organize it differently if we have strengths in like half of the pillars but are weaker in others? So don't feel like you have to put every pillar on there. Being able to just list the ones where you do have strengths is what's most valuable, and you can order them in the ways that are most relevant to you. Maybe your highlighted clinical experience is your #1 section after education, and then right after that you're putting research because you've spent a lot of time doing research with a faculty member of your program. Then after that, maybe you put the 1 or 2 volunteer experiences you've had and you go onwards. We want to order it and control that order based on what is your strongest skill set. Don't feel like you have to put all of these headings. At the end, I'm going to show you a list of all the potential headings you have that I haven't explored through this PowerPoint. And let's see what else. There's another question here. How far back do we go when we include experience? It depends on what's relevant. If you're already in dental school, for example, I met with 2 dental students today, so dental's on my mind. If you are in dental school now, you don't really need to put shadowing from when you were trying to get into dental school. You want to go back relevant based on what's going to get you to the next step you're looking at. So if you are applying for a residency, for example, you want to be including everything from that professional school experience that sets you up for that. Let's see, we have for research, if you did a presentation on your research and would like to highlight that, would it get its own section? Okay, so presentations, publications, conferences, y'all are asking all the right questions. That's actually coming up in a slide very soon. All of those are fair game to include. You can make a bullet point in research, or what I would recommend is a new section of presentations and publications. And APA style format, you can list those opportunities where you presented. You can do professional affiliations and mention just the conference organizations that you're affiliated with as well. And if you have, let me see, and practicum experience that was shadowing someone in the field, would you list it in experiences or would you leave it out? So it depends on the value of that practicum experience. Does it fill a gap for you that you don't have filled by other experience you're currently getting? And then I'm getting some specific questions on here. We're going to hold on to those towards the end just for the sake of everybody's time. So let's jump back in here and we'll get back to the questions closer to the end. So some additional experience, exactly as you were saying, presentations and publications are right at the bottom here. You can list them, a great presentation topic, and you can name the conference, the location, and the date. If you have something that's actually published, even if you are not the publishing name on it, and you're affiliated, you're one of those et al. People that contributed, you can still name that here, and if you wanted a little bullet point to describe your involvement. And yes, you can include the international conferences you've attended, national conferences, state conferences, any type of experience you have in that area, you can provide, even if you were only an attendee. If you happen to be a committee member, for example, at a conference, you can go ahead and add that as a leadership experience since you did a little more. Or if you volunteered, you can include that in community involvement. There's no right way to do a CV. There are just best practices in communicating exactly what you have, the way you want it to be received. So just little food for thought there when it comes to everything that you're seeing today. You want to be able to include all of the experiences you particularly have, and they may not match experiences other people have. So the way that we come up with listing it and providing that information to that future employer or admissions counselor is up to you. And that's what career development's here for. These are the basics that I'm sharing with you today. But if you come in for a one-on-one appointment, in which we do over phone and Skype as well, you'll get the opportunity to really go in depth and say, does my research make sense here, or does it make more sense as a presentation over here? And we can go through that stuff together. So just to answer some of those questions coming through. For CV content, some other things, shadowing experience if you happen to still be getting into a program, honors and awards, relevant projects or past experiences. And here are all some other potential headings. This is not an exhaustive list. You can change these names and combine them however you would like to on your future CV as you're building it. I got one good question right here that I do want to address, and I'm going to address at the end. We currently have 3 CV templates available on Handshape. Handshape is our online platform. You can log in through nova.edu/career. I'll have that on the last page for you to write down. You can find all 3 of our CV templates there to work off of. They do download as Word documents, so it makes it very easy to be able to manipulate the information to your needs. And it's only a starting point. The best thing to do would be to come and talk to a career advisor once you finish that draft. So, yep, no problem, Rena. For the bullet points and PAR statements. So when it comes to that content, even though we call them PAR statements, it really is action first, then your project, and your result. Ultimately, you are telling them, this is the transferable skill I've learned. This is the action I've taken through this experience. Then I'm going to tell you who or what I impacted, which is the community health organizations here. And then I'm going to tell you a result. Not every situation or bullet point has a result to it, but it could be ensuring safety, ensuring patient knowledge. It could be diffusing a difficult situation in order to ensure the safety of others. I keep on coming back to that safety routine. So there's lots of different ways, and all of our samples have great bullet points for you to look at for inspiration. In fact, on Handshape, there's a whole list of action verbs, giant list of synonyms of how to say helping, communicating, and all that stuff, because if you think about it, I can say I communicated something, but how? There's a million ways to communicate. I could be communicating to you all in this webinar as I am now. I could be speaking to a large crowd, a public speaking seminar type thing for 200 people, or I could be doing one-on-one advising as I get to do in my job every day. So being able to specify how is what these bullet points let you do. It doesn't say you're just helping patients, it's telling them how you help patients. You're not just managing tooth filling, you're going through all of these steps. You're explaining to the patient from start to finish how to navigate this. You're going step by step with observation and supervision. You're painting a picture so that the person reading it gets a really clear idea of what you were able to do. You understand what you did. You lived it. You know what it looks like. This gives you the chance, using PAR statements, to illustrate it and paint that picture so that anybody else reading it sees it the way you do. Some way to help with that is quantifying, conveying the size and scale, using numbers, using specific techniques, naming things. If you do a presentation, for example, saying if you presented good stress relieving techniques to a class of elementary school kids, you may want to say to a class of 6 to 8-year-olds or to a class of 22 students. You can quantify in different ways based on what you're trying to communicate. If you want to work with pediatrics, you might mention the ages, but if you are talking about just your skills on teaching and education, you just may want to say the number of that classroom. Things to avoid when it comes to your CV. Yes, you're allowed to go very long on your CV. You can have several pages, but keep it relevant. If you've mentioned an opportunity in one section, say a research opportunity, don't repeat that research opportunity again and again in a presentation section, in a relevant experience section. You want to keep it in its most important space, because if you start repeating it over and over, then the reader is going to stop reading and they're going to think, wow, is this the only thing that they accomplished? But if you happen to have one piece of research that went to many conferences, there's a way to list that in APA and then underneath notate how many times or how many locations where it's been. We can work more one-on-one on that in the future. You want to commit to the same style font, the same margins throughout. When it comes to your personal information, you don't need a picture unless you are applying for a residency that indicates on the application that you need that picture. Otherwise, you don't need a picture. You don't need to include your age or marital status or citizenship. And then you don't need to include irrelevant or unprofessional information. When I say irrelevant and unprofessional, I mean that you don't need to mention that you're a Pisces. So there are some applications where it's okay to mention interests and hobbies that is typically only for your residency. Let's see, I have a couple questions coming in on this slide. Fantastic. Let's see. So Lindsay asks, is it better to use a resume format if you don't have a CV that is very long? So Lindsay, a resume and a CV are the same. The CV just explores more of those academic and clinically relevant experiences. So your resume and CV might end up being the same, have the same look. The only difference I think is your resume is a little more focused on professional paid experience or leadership experience. With the CV, you're really focusing in on those clinical experiences and the healthcare components and academic components like conferences and presentations. Let's see what else we have here. Ria asks, where do we include honors, professional societies, associations? So all of that stuff, I would put in the document probably a little bit lower. Like once you have your education, your clinical information, and then whatever you feel is most relevant to the employer or the whoever may be looking at it, then you get the chance to put your honors, professional societies, associations. That stuff is important, but it's supplemental. Those 4 pillars that we talked about in the beginning, those are the ones that you should be starting with because that's what those people are looking for first. Everything else you do is just a bonus, another golden star to add on next to your name. So those things are important to add, but you don't have to add them at the very first page. That should come a little bit later on. Okay, LinkedIn, good question. Your LinkedIn link you can put in your header. So back to our contact information section where you had your name, your address, all of that stuff, next to your address on those 2 lines or underneath everything, however you format it, feel free to add a link for your LinkedIn. You don't have to leave it as a hyperlink, even though it's going to be received electronically. They'll be able to look you up from there. And that also convinces and pushes them to go ahead and check out your online presence. So these are just some of the other services we offer within career development. We do everything from very start to the very end of your career journey, and it could be internships, externships, residency process, salary negotiations, writing cover letters, personal statements, or doing a mock interview if you're nervous. We can help you figure out how to get in front of employers and break the ice, or how to start that job search if you're not really sure. And we'll help you figure out not only the best strategies that are out there, but the best strategies for your needs. And I see one question, can we have access to this for after graduation? So I'm guessing that means career development services, and yes, we do offer our services to alumni. You have the opportunity for hour-long appointments. That could be over phone, Skype, or in person. And you also have the opportunity as alumni to attend many of our events. Right now, there's no cap on how long you can use us. We pride ourselves on the ability to continue serving NSU students throughout their careers. And we know that maybe sometimes just begins once they leave. And that's something let's see, can faculty available of the CV help? So Barbara, your comment about faculty availability, you would have to reach out to your own faculty and they would be able to assist you. I think that's a great idea. The more eyes on your document, the better, especially people that are currently in your field will be able to catch some things and help you highlight maybe certain skills that you may not have on there. Okay, as a faculty member, you know what, Barbara, maybe we need to make an appointment, but I know this was a bit more introductory, but I feel like for you, there'd be a lot more emphasis on the academia side of your experiences and addressing your presentations, publications, and all of that. So we only have, I think, one slide left. Okay, perfect. So just to let you know about the services one more time, we have 2 offices on campus, and we have one over in the Horvitz Administration Building. We also have one in the DeSantis Building, and that happens to be where I work. You can call this main number here, 954-262-7201. That number will bring you to our front desk and give you access to all of our fantastic advisors. We have a team of 11 advisors, some with different specializations, but we're all trained the same way, and we're all here to help you and support you. You can make 1-hour-long appointments. You can also participate in our drop-ins. So over phone only or in person. You cannot do Skype for drop-ins. It's 15 to 20 minutes. You can come in without an appointment. In the Horvitz Administration Building, you can do that every day of the week, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. During that work week, you can come on in for drop-ins without an appointment. We also offer labs, so if you want to work in real time on your documents, check out our website, which is nova.edu/career. In fact, I can pull that up if you would like to see. But one more thing I do want you to take note of is you have my email address now, arisotto@nova.edu. Yes, risotto, like the Italian meal. It's really easy to remember. And someone says yum, yes. And feel free to call and make an appointment with me. I love working with healthcare students, and this is a particular passion area of mine. But one thing I would like to ask is please do not email me your CVs if you have not met with me. I will only review documents if we have sat down and had a conversation about it first. But after that, then we can figure out if it's something we can talk about and just email back and forth in the future. And that's a rule across our office. So if you want to come on in, I saw somebody do a shout out for Sierra. So somebody has been to our office before. Fantastic. I will let her know that you said that about her. So feel free to meet with Sierra, myself. There is like 6 other advisors that meet with all students, grads and undergrads. So there's many people that you can meet with. Yeah, so that happens to be the end of my document. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm happy to take some questions. But I'd also like to show you all really quickly just the career development website. Let's open this up. So Handshake right here, if you log in, you all have accounts already as Nova students. So log on in. That's where you can have access to jobs and internships, access to all of the resources, the bullet point statements, anything to help you. If you're struggling at any point while building your CV, check Handshake first. And from there, then you can come on in with your questions. So thank you all for your time today. I'm happy. I'm going to take some questions right now. And thank you to everyone saying thank you. You all are wonderful. Handshake, just to clarify again, Handshake is our online portfolio. It's our online career services platform. So we offer jobs and internships on there. We offer documents and resources so you can see sample CVs, sample resumes. You can go on to Handshake for events. So whenever we have public health case competitions or employers on campus, we list those opportunities so you can research them beforehand. And then let's see what else we have here. Can we upload our CV? I already addressed that. Okay, is it possible to do a job search for PTA positions on Handshake? You can certainly start there. Handshake has a very specific amount of jobs because we personally in career services approve every employer before they post on there. Right now, I haven't seen too many PTA positions, but it may be growing since we just added 2 new members to our employer relations team, and their sole purpose is to go out on the ground and find more opportunities related to healthcare and business, since those where the bulk of our students are. So hopefully in this coming months, we'll be seeing a lot more healthcare positions on there. Let's see. LinkedIn, I saw a comparison. LinkedIn and Handshake are similar, but Handshake is a little more geared towards the Nova student. We specifically purchased that service and it's specialized for Nova students. So if you apply for a job through Handshake, they get a notification that you're a Nova student and this has been hand delivered kind of from our desk to theirs. We do offer, I see a question from Randy. We do offer Skype appointments and phone appointments for our distance learners. I've worked with students in Colorado, Oklahoma, and Washington State. We've dealt with time differences and all that jazz. We will make it work for you so that you can do an appointment with one of the advisors. That's something you would definitely have to call the front desk and make an appointment for. You wouldn't be able to do Skype for a drop-in session. When will we receive a copy of the slides? I'll be coordinating with Jonathan to make sure that gets sent out as soon as we are able to. I will not give you a time on that, but hopefully as soon as we can. Probably not tonight, but as soon as we can send them out, we will. Sometime tomorrow. Oh, great. Jonathan already did. Thank you for addressing that already. They'll be sent out sometime tomorrow. There are jobs posted outside of Florida on Handshake. I also encourage LinkedIn as a great job search tool if you're in the job search. Let's see. Curtis asked about the appropriate length for page length. Curtis, there is no number. I cannot give you a specific number of what that page length is supposed to be because it's up to you and your experiences. I've seen some really robust 2-page CVs and I've seen some 5-page CVs that all had relevant information on it. Don't feel like you have to sit there and compare yourself to other people and the length of their CVs. Again, it's about the quality over the quantity. You want to make sure everything that's on there is relevant and important to who needs to read it. Do we add an objective statement on the CV and how do you make it stand out? I'm not a personal fan of the objective statement. I think that if you're writing a CV or a cover letter, if you're writing a cover letter or a personal statement, as you would with a residency application, you are already addressing that narrative piece for the objective statement. On a resume, if you were doing more of a functional job resume, you could have an objective, but it would only be if you've had many years in the field. So I would put an objective if I was a career advisor for 12 plus years with specialty areas in health students and business students. I would highlight only the years of my career if I'm making a transition, and I would highlight my special strength areas in that objective if I were to do it, but I would not use it unless I've had a lengthy career already. Let's see what other questions. For the education, should we have our GPA? All right, Marissa. So you can put your GPA. GPAs are, if it's something you're proud of, I would say definitely 3 or above is when you should list that on there. But it's really not that important. Only time I've seen that be valuable is dental school residency. They like to see your rank and your GPA only if you're going for a specialization like endo or ortho. But if you just want to have your GPA on there because you managed to pull a 3.8 and you're really proud of it, go for it. If they need your grades for something else, they're gonna ask you for your grades, your transcripts, or in some other way. All right, so CVs with varied colors. Good question, Curtis. Avoid the colors. Honestly, it's a little distracting. You want to be able to create a document where there's no distraction and the star player is your skills and experience. Those colors can get really funky sometimes, and it pulls the eyes away of the employer. Some employers only spend 20 to 30 seconds on a basic resume. CVs, they'll spend a little bit longer based on the reasons that they're looking at it. But if somebody's looking, wow, look at this red font, they may be distracted from some of the important information. So stick to black. Thank you for the suggestion, Ben, for the webinar on cover letters. We actually offer multiple webinars through the Office of Career Development on Handshape in the event section. You can look for that. I believe we did a cover letter one last semester, and we're going to be uploading CareerTube very soon, our own YouTube channel where we're going to have all of our webinars featured. I can't give you a date for when that will be ready, but it should be soon since 2 of our graduate students have been diligently working on pulling that information together. So check the career development website every week or so. We should have a new hot button for the CareerTube very soon with those past webinars. All right, Carolyn, how do you review CV for out-of-state online students who are unable to meet with you? So Carolyn, that would be through Skype or through the phone. If we did a phone appointment, you could email me your CV. If we had a set appointment time, I would call you and you'd be sitting in front of your CV as well. And we'd walk step by step together through the different sections, talk through some of the experiences. And at the end, my style, I like to track comments as we talk, and I'll email you that track document at the end. But every advisor has their own style of how they manage long distance communications with online students. All right, wow, y'all kept me busy with those questions. Woo! I'm out of breath. So please, if you have any other questions, I have a few more minutes with you, and then we'll go down over to that raffle with Jonathan. And you're welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to chat with you all today. Like I said before, I love working with my healthcare students. Like, y'all work hard, and being able to put this strategy into effect really helps you achieve the dreams that you've walked into those programs with. And I'm happy to be there for that journey. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your kindness and your kind comments. Jonathan, I think we're good to turn it on back over to you.
Great. Oh my gosh, Ashley, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Virtual round of applause for Ashley Risotto. Yay. So now we're going to end the evening, but I want to do our raffle. So Ashley, as is our custom, each month when we do these, our guest speaker chooses 2 numbers. Tonight, it'll be number